chills down your spine, I don't know what does. Everybody give a great hand for Rusty and his crew. Thank you all for being here. This is really history in the making. We are celebrating 6 individuals that created the sport that we all love. The foundation, the bedrock, the greatest players, the most dominant players of their time, and the contributors that made the game what it is today. These 6 individuals really are our, I don't know what you'd want to call it, what's that mountain out in Wyoming? Mount Rushmore, the Mount Rushmore of pickleball. Thank you very much. That's what the 6 individuals are for pickleball. So, South Dakota. All right, well, I'm close. I failed geography. What can I say?
Alternative fact.
Okay, we're here tonight, and the way that this is going to run is each one of the inductees were asked to have a presenter that would be meaningful to give them their gifts, to say a few personal words about them. I will introduce that presenter. I'll say a few words about their accomplishments, but all of these 6 individuals are well known to everybody in this room. We haven't met them, I haven't met them, and I'm honored to be here today. I'm probably one of the youngest as far as in pickleball years, and it's been my pleasure to play a small part in what's taking place. There's a lot of people that we need to thank, and so I want to spend a few moments just giving all of you an idea that this idea has been talked about for a long time, but it was really the USAPA, the IPTPA, and a number of pickleball leaders that came together all within a 4-month period of time and did everything as far as putting together a not-for-profit corporation, developing the criteria, the website, and everything that you need to have in order to develop a Hall of Fame. And then we got volunteers. And you know, in the pickleball community, we're so blessed to have so many people that love this sport and that are willing to give up their time and their effort and their energy. We're also passionate about the game. And without those volunteers, something like this would never have taken place. So there are a number of people that are wearing Pickleball Hall of Fame shirts. These were people that stepped up to the plate and donated funds, because since we're such a young organization, we paid for having all of our inductees coming out here, the travel expenses, the hotels, the gifts, and everything. And of course, all that takes money. And so we need to thank, first of all of the players that stood up and opened up their pocketbooks. So thank you for all of your I want to also thank the major sponsors. We have Tier 1 and Tier 2 sponsors. So IPTPA, USAPA, Pickleball Channel, and Pickleball Central stepped up and became Tier 1 sponsors. And then, of course, Selkirk and Pro Life are Tier 2 sponsors. So thank you so much for allowing the event to take place. Along the way, we have some criteria in order to even have the 6 people that we have here today. So we have a nominating committee. Their job is an extremely difficult one. All of the nominations that come in, their task is to go through all those nominations and find 10 of the most worthy, because everyone is worthy, obviously, but 10 of the most worthy, and then recommend those people to the selection committee. The selection committee then, in this inaugural year, selected the 6 inductees that we have today. So thank you to all of the committee members that made so much time, energy, and effort to make this event happen. Again, thank you to all of those folks. We also had an organizing committee made up of a number of pickleball leaders, and these people were responsible for weekly meetings, because our objective back in July was that we cannot wait any longer. We have to get a Hall of Fame, and we have to have it done by nationals. We have to have our initial inductees, because we don't want to have a memorial to any more people. We've lost 2 of the 3 founders. We're blessed to have at least one more around. Barney, unfortunately, was not able to come. I mean, my heart is torn out, because we rushed and worked so hard, thinking that Barney would certainly be one of the inductees, and of course he is. And if it was a week earlier, he'd be here. If it was a week later, he'd be here. But unfortunately got in a car accident a week ago, and even though our best efforts of using technology to allow a teleconference, he just wasn't up for it. So our prayers and all of the love that we all have go out to Barney and his family, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we have our inductee come up and our representatives for Barney and for Joel come up. Finally, I'd like to pay special attention and thanks to Yvonne. Yvonne, where are you? Yvonne actually did the embroidery for all of the jackets. We have several gifts. All of you that were at the court saw that we provided plaques to all of our inductees. We have jackets, Hall of Fame jackets, and Yvonne did the embroidery for all those. We also have Hall of Fame rings. And my wife, Holly, and Fran worked diligently to create a unique and special ring that each one of our inductees are going to have. So thank you so much for those. And finally, as we move forward, we're going to have 2 of our inductees before dinner, simply because Frank has to get on a plane to get back out of here. And I promised him that we would not rush him, but we would make it available, and we would design our program so that he could certainly enjoy the love and the honor that his family so deserves, but he'd still be able to get out on time. So we're going to make that happen, Frank. What I'd like to do is to quote something that Joel Pritchard said a number of years ago. And it's so apropos. And as I look at the Hall of Fame and this start of a new year, moving into 2018, Joel said this, and I quote, "It's amazing what you can get accomplished if you don't worry about who gets the credit." Don't worry about who gets the credit. Do the right thing for the game. And the IPTPA, the USAPA, all of the pickleball leaders, we got together in a very short order, and we created this special, unique opportunity called the Pickleball Hall of Fame. And this will be a yearly event. This is something that is going to bring pride and joy to so many people, and we witnessed that with the first 6 people. And it's going to be something that is going to carry through as a tradition each and every year. So let's remember those words, not just for the Hall of Fame, but for everything that we can do moving forward for pickleball. Let's put aside worrying about who gets the credit, and let's just do it because it's the right thing to do. So with that being said, let's move forward with our first inductee, and lights. Pritchard is oftentimes called the father of pickleball, and I'm sure he had no idea what he created back in 1965 when he just tried to keep the kids busy. And here we are today, and the one word that I hear from so many pickleball players that I've never heard from any other athlete, and I've worked with many athletes in many different sports, is I'm addicted to this game. How many of you have ever said that? I'm addicted to this game. Joel wanted to create a game that was great for kids, which is how we tried to keep them out of trouble, and also all the way through to the adults, and he was so successful. We are so honored to have Frank Pritchard, his son, represent the family, and to come out and say a few words about the behind the scenes. He was back with them in 1965, and so we will welcome Frank to come on up.
Thank you. I kind of feel like Rip Van Winkle woke up 20 years later, or whatever. I had no idea. Coming here, I mean, it just, my jaw's been hanging down. You know, my frame of reference was this little court on Bainbridge Island. So this is amazing. And as much as I like all of you people, I think you're wonderful. I love my wife more. And if I don't get to Seattle in time to meet her tomorrow morning for a flight to Maui, I better stay in Phoenix. Forever. So I'm here also, besides thanking you, I want to dispel a few, myths, give you the true scoop here. So let's start with the game, pickleball. No, it wasn't named for the dog. Sorry. I'm giving this credit goes to my mother, Joanne Pritchard, who was kind of a crew, that other sport. And the University of Washington had what they called the pickleball. So there was sort of the A boat and the B boat, and then everybody else went into the pickleball. And she sort of thought, well, pickleball is kind of a conglomeration of all these different games. We sort of threw all the rules into this thing, pickleball. Well, it kind of makes sense. Then the dog came. The dog was a cockapoo, not a cocker spaniel. The dog never went and chased the balls, I'm sorry. Pickles. It was Pickles. I'm going to tell you how the game started. There was kind of a bratty guy, little kid, Bainbridge Island, Washington, who was complaining to his father that there was nothing to do. He hated being on Bainbridge Island, there's nothing to do. And Joel Pritchard said to that kid, well, when we were kids here, we'd make games up. And I said, oh yeah, why don't you go make a game? That's why we're all here today. And, just coincidentally, my grandparents had been big badminton players, and we had a badminton court kind of in the back middle of the property that my grandfather had laid some asphalt on. So here's the court. And let's start from there. What other myths can I?
Do you start with a ping pong paddle and a wiffle ball? Is that
okay, now I can do this. I was a June baby, and somebody thought it would be a good idea. They used to give these little plastic balls and bats that had a wiffle ball in it.
Yep.
Well, somebody mistakenly gave me one of those. Here's the wiffle ball. My father picked that up, and that's what. And if you remember, what wiffle balls were, sort of half the hemisphere was solid, and well, they lasted about 3 games. And then they cracked. So that changed shortly, and I think Barney McCallum figured that one out. And that's another point I want to make. I think the second day of this messing around with this game, I remember my father saying, you know who we need? We need Barney. And Barney lives 6 doors down the beach. And so Barney, Bill Bell, and my father then started working on this game together. And I have to say, if it weren't for Barney McCallum, none of us would be here. His hard work, his dedication to this game, putting his money where his mouth was, more than anyone else deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, is Barney McCallum. Now, you know, yeah, I mean, I get credit for making the game start, right? Right? And Barney gets, I've got to say, I will say one other thing that, you know, my father, you know, he did a lot of things in his life. He was in the, you know, the state legislature. He was a U.S. congressman for 12 years. He was the lieutenant governor of the state of Washington. And, you know, those are all good things, and he did some great stuff. But I think the one thing that he was probably proudest of was pickleball. But if he could see what's going on today with this game, he'd be amazed. I'm amazed. And the fact that this gives so much pleasure to so many people all over the world, I mean, I just can't tell you what that would mean to him and what it means to me. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart as a family. It's just wonderful. And thank you for letting me get out of here. So, thank you. Guys, you ready? You ready?
Stated, you know, if Joel was the father of pickleball, Barney certainly was the driver. He's the one that made it happen. He's the one that created the no volley zone line. He's the one that created double bounce rule. He put it all together. He worked tirelessly to get this game legitimate. He created, along with Joel and Bill Bell, Pickleball Inc., the first company to get the game up and running. And like I said, I know he wanted so badly to be here, but he had selected Jennifer LaCour and his son David to say a few words and be the presenters of the awards that we would love to be able to give to him, but we'll be happy to give to David. So, David, Jennifer, can you come up and...
Lucky enough to know the McCallum family for like 7 years, and pretty much twice a year I get to go visit Barney, and since day one he's always been very passionate about the game, and he'd say, Jennifer, can you tell me what's happening? I'm messing with the rules, what's going on? And because he hadn't been out to see the game for many decades, right? He's plugging away doing his business. And, you know, he'll read about it, and David will fill him in and stuff. And so a couple years, I would say maybe 2011, 12-ish, he came to a SeaTac tournament in SeaTac, Washington. And Steve Wong and Steve Paranto and Billy Jacobson and Mark, all the regulars were playing. And he came actually with his buddy Jim Weller, who, so both these guys are 91, they were doubles partners. So anyway, they got to come and to watch this tournament, you know, which is really in their backyard. And they just, Barney said, this was one of my best days ever. Because seeing the people, all the ages, different shapes, sizes, the way we hit the ball, he just thought it was so great, and then the laughter and things. So he always said, you know, what's going on, how's it going? And then he'd always give me little tips, like after we'd visit, he'd send a note, you know, the old handwritten note, you know, in the mail like I used to do. He'd send it and he'd say, okay, now don't forget, you know, the lob is a great shot. And he'd give me a few more tips, because I think back in the day, you might say too that it was a great lobber. Like, his lobs would go really high, so when they come down, they just kind of go straight. And he says it totally messes them up. So, hey, I'm trying to do that, Barney. So anyways, the McCallum family is awesome, and I know Barney's so touched with how the sport's going and to receive this award, and it's so lucky that we have his son David here.
Thank you for having us. You guys are doing a great job with the game, and I know Barney is thrilled about that, so thank you.
Okay, before you run off, David, we got a couple of gifts that you need to pass on to Barney.
No, you go there.
So David is presenting David with the Pickleball Hall of Fame jacket that is sized to fit Barney, and we hope that Barney will have an opportunity to be able to wear it. Put it on, let's see how it fits.
Thank you. Barney McCallum, I'll be keeping that.
And then we also have a Pickleball Hall of Fame ring that will go to Barney as well, and that is inscribed with his name on the inside. If I open this up, and can we get a close-up of it, Rusty?
Not on the screen.
No, okay, then we won't do that. There we go. You're welcome. We got a pickleball and a paddle right in the center. We got the year of induction, 2017, and we got the inductee's name on the inside. So it's all personalized for each of the inductees. Again, thank you very much. Congratulations to the family. Okay. A special entertainer. He thought that Arlen Paranto was the key inductee of the six, but now I've discovered that his son Steve has put together a song. And this is one that is near and dear to one of our inductees, Mark Friedenberg. So without further ado, here we go. Take it away, Steve.
Well, short story first. So I wrote this song about 6 years ago. So Mark has heard it at one of my pickleball parties at my house at Oregon State games. It's on YouTube. In fact, this is one of the biggest pickleball sensations songs on YouTube. It's got something like 37 hits, something like that. Yeah, now it'll get more. I do have to warn you, I have changed a few of the names in the song to protect the innocent. So here we go. This is the Yoda song. In fact, there's one verse at the end. You guys will help me. True story, too. Well, I met him on a court a long time ago. He said his name is Mark, but you might know him as Yoda. Yo, 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 Yoda. He walked up to me and he asked me to play. He said, I'll give you a lesson, but you'll have to pay because I'm Yoda. Yo, 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 Yoda. Yo, 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 Yoda. Now he's not physical guy. Cause when you see him off the court, you wonder why he's called Yoda. Yoda. But when you watch him on the court of our favorite sport, you hear the players say, I sure don't want to play that Yoda. 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 He plays all day and every night under those Arizona lights, and he goes on home to get some rest. Back in the morning to meet all the best. Oh, you know he wrote a book about pickleball where he shared a lot of secrets, but not them all, because he's Yoda. Yoda. He's got a little mustache and he's not very tall, but you better watch out, cause he'll hit you with the ball. Oh, that Yoda. 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 I'm coming up to the R-rated version now, sorry. Now girls play with boys and boys play with girls. It's called mixed doubles, and he likes to do it with Heather. La 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 Heather. Him and his woman like to make the scene. They like to play a little pickle, if you know what I mean. Think he got so good? Well, Heather turns him on. She gives him wood on that. She turns him into a fiery guy. He's a world champion on Spanish fly. Oh, that all day and every night under those Arizona lights, and he goes on home to get some rest. Back in the morning to beat all the best. Oh, I'm not dumb, but I don't understand how he gets to the ball like a younger man. Oh, that Yoda. Yoda. If there ever is a Hall of Fame, and now there is, he'll be the first inducted. Sorry, Pat Kane, because of Yoda. Yo. As far as songs go, this isn't parody. I'm not getting paid. I'm doing it for free because of Yoda. Yoda. I'm not the world's most intelligent guy, but I'll teach you this verse and just give it a try. This is for everybody, and say Yoda. Yoda.
pickleball, then Arlen certainly is the father of the modern pickleball paddle. 90 paddle companies that are out there today, basically all of them use the same space-age technology that Arlen invented back in 1984. The owner of ProLight Sports, he and his son Steve worked tirelessly in the garage at home on their courts, putting together the type of paddle that allowed us to have the game that we have today. And Arlen has selected, of course, his son Steven to say a few words about him and to give us a little bit more of an inside scoop besides the accolades that we already have showered on Arlen, all the other things that we know were done behind the scenes, the dust that they were breathing, and all the obstacles that they had to overcome to get the paddle industry to where it is today. So, Steve for Arlen.
Thank you. This is so exciting for my dad and myself. I mean, how cool is it to introduce your dad to a Hall of Fame of a sport, right? And not only that, it's my favorite sport. So, a double. So I just have a few notes here, but all I have to do is just look at them and I'll be reminded of quite a few things here. So this sport could be, I mean, this speech could be me introducing my dad as an inductee to the Hall of Fame of Pickleball, or it could be, a universal speech just to the world's best dad, because all the things that my dad did, it intertwined with us getting involved with pickleball. Dad and I always did hobbies together. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine. Seymour stayed at my house, and we've talked about all the, Seymour's kind of like me, where you get involved in an activity and you go all out, right? Well, Dad and I did that in many, many activities, and I jotted down a few. So, you know, my earliest memory is baseball with Dad. You know, going out and getting pitching balls to me, and, you know, he got the wiffle bat, and baseball. Then fishing. Both of us just loved fishing. Table tennis was really that first racket sport that led me to tennis, which then led me to pickleball. And we used to play some great table tennis matches in the garage, my mom too. And we would play, you know, remember the old days when table tennis was you go to 21 points? They don't do that anymore, by the way. Most of it you probably think they do. They don't, they go to 11, they do 3 out of 5. But anyway, we would play, so if we won 21-15, the other, you won 6 cents. You know, we played a penny a point. It was pretty competitive in our house when we played sport. And they tried, and especially my mom. She didn't want me to ever beat her. I think I was in about 8th grade before I could beat my mom at table tennis. Then it was basketball. Dad put on my 12th birthday. Dad, now this is, you know, now we have all these portable basketball hoops, don't we? Well, there was no such thing then. But Dad goes ahead. We live on a cul-de-sac. Didn't get any approval from any neighborhood association or anything. Drills a hole in the ground, puts a big sleeve in the ground, 10-foot hoop, and we did have a street light, and the whole neighborhood used it though. And we put lines on the, official lines on the cul-de-sac, and we said NBA, which meant Neighborhood Basketball Association. And Dad was the only dad that came out and played with all us kids. I just remember that. He was the only one that came out. All the other kids' dads stayed inside. He came out and played. So then we took up archery together, and target shooting. And we went hunting. We never hit. We never shot anything. It was just the bonding of going out hunting. And but so archery, we got Dad made the arrows. Made, you know, I'll talk about it. He liked to make things. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Scouting, mountain biking. We took that together. By the time we took that up together, he was already in his 50s or 60s when we did that one. Recumbent biking. Now he does a recumbent trike. You see the ones with the 2 wheels in the front, 1 wheel in the back? We both have one, of course. Every time we did something, we both did it together. Remote control boats. Dad made the fastest, coolest remote control boats back in the 70s. We were members of the Seattle Model Yacht Club. Dad made the best boats. I could drive them pretty well, but he made the best boats. I was a ventriloquist since I was about 11 or 12. And I got the dummy in the Sears catalog, the Danny O'Day dummy. And then Dad saw that I had an interest in this, and I was entertaining in the classroom, and you know, I had one talent show. So then Dad makes my professional dummies just like Paul Winchell. He had the book, he bought the book of Paul Winchell. You guys remember who Paul Winchell is? And you know, I used that skill as I taught school for 30 years. And my kids at school felt like my characters, that my dummies that were part of the school. In fact, when I retired from teaching, the kids were really upset because, well, Kenny, which was one of my characters, was finally got his 5th grade diploma when I retired, and they were going to really miss Kenny. So he was a part of the school, so I used that skill for the rest of my life. And we took up golfing, billiards, photography. I mean, I could go on and on. But every time I did something, he took it up, or he learned something, then I would take it up. And then he would always figure out how to make things better every time I had a hobby. He would, like I said, build fishing boats, build remote control boats, teach me how to tie flies. And later, when I became a school teacher, I would have some ideas about things I needed to have improved in my classroom. So one day I'm teaching miniature golf on a gym floor. Well, there's no ball that will roll straight on a gym floor and stop, is there? So I was using fleece balls, like that's a yard ball, and hockey sticks. And I set up a 9-hole course for the kids, and they loved it. They used the parachute as a sand trap, and you'd be real creative. But I thought, gee, I wish someone could make a ball. And I was just telling my dad, someone needs to make a ball that'll roll straight and then stop. Next morning I get up, because I'm visiting my parents. The very next morning I get up, he has these rubber balls with rubber bands sticking out of them. And you roll them, and it became a very popular PE product. We licensed it to Sport Time, which is a big PE company. And to this day, that's a very popular product sold in schools. That was a very successful for us. But I would mention something, then the next day he would figure out how to make it work. On the pickleball paddles, we kind of have the same theme that Frank had earlier. I was that person complaining. I wasn't a kid at the time. I was in my early 20s playing pickleball tournaments with the wooden paddles, playing Sid's tournaments. And my partner and I, Richard Skevington, kept losing to the same team over and over, usually in the semis or finals. And Dad would come and watch. He was my best fan. He wasn't playing yet at that time. And I was just complaining about the weight of a paddle. And I weighed my tennis racket, because I played small college tennis, weighed my tennis racket, weighed the ball. The tennis racket weighed 7 times more than the ball. I weighed my pickleball paddle and weighed the pickleball, and the paddle weighed 13 times heavier. So I told Dad the ratio is all wrong. I just told him, I didn't say do it. But then 2 weeks later, he's visiting me and throws out 2 prototypes. And one of those prototypes is at the Hall of Fame in Kent, Washington. The other one's at my house on the wall. But then my partner and I went with those very same 2 paddles. They're crude prototypes, but they play pretty well. They play pretty much very similar to what you're using. Then we won everything for months and months and months, and then we decided we need to start a company. This is, right? So we're watching a movie. We're watching The Natural with Robert Redford, and we're trying to think, what's our logo going to be? Well, do you remember the lightning bolt on the bat? That's it. I mean, it's like, that's our logo. So, that started Pro-Light. So when you see those lightning bolts on the Pro-Light paddle, for about the next 10 years, we were the only ones making a composite paddle. And we'd go to a tournament, and we'd say, hey, look, finally have 5 people using our paddle. Next tournament, 10. Next 15. Pretty soon you could count how many people didn't have our paddle. Oh, look, there's 5 people with woods. Then it would be, oh, Earl Birdsall's still using that wood paddle. He hung on to that one for a very long time. So Dad set up in our garage an assembly line. We would rush off to Boeing to buy surplus material. That was all surplus. We bought that pennies to the pound. You can't do that anymore. And we'd fill up our truck, come home, and Dad would lay them all out, because some of them were different kinds of honeycombs, so that would be the lighter paddle. We'd make light, medium, and heavy. Wes is still using the Magnum, which is one that we made in our garage, and that was started right there. We had the end caps. making those end caps. Dad made a machine with a, what's that, a drill press, Dad? It was a drill press, and he figured out how to heat the plastic pellets up. That's the other thing, we go get these plastic pellets somewhere, heat it up. He made a mold, and then we push it through. Mark remembers what a headache that was, because when he had, so you'd spend about 30 minutes to make 5 end caps, and 2 of them would be bad, right? So that was my job. He would send me in the garage to make end caps. Yeah. So that, I remember that one pretty well. Also, Dad made, since we had this business going now, we thought, well, we got to keep promoting pickleball, because the more we promote it, the more paddles we sell. So I organized a tournament in Oregon at the time. We called it the Oregon Open, and we had 200 people playing in 1989 in a tournament. And yeah, that was pretty. And the night before, we were putting probably duct tape on the tennis court lines. You know, on tennis courts, we rented the courts. Dad made the first portable standards, and they were very crude. They were nothing like today. That should have been another invention we should have thought of earlier, like they have today. But it worked for us, and we had about 15 courts. And of course, the next morning, we had been putting those lines up till about 4 in the morning. We get there the next day, and all the lines are up, and we had to stick them back down. So we would promote pickleball by organizing tournaments. And here we are today with, we sold the company to Mark Candelaria, who sold it to Mark. And now Mark's son has that company, and now we are today with 90 companies basically making that paddle that Dad made in the garage in 1984. So, I'm just going to have Dad come up and say thanks, and come on up here, Dad. Can you get some help coming up this way? And Randy, if you guys don't know it, Randy and I have been playing together since about '87. And we claim we were the first team to stack, because he's left-handed and I'm right-handed. And then the Seattle guys figured out, we only did it when we served. Then the Seattle guys figured out to do it when you received. Why didn't we think of that? Here you go, Dad.
Arlen Paranto.
I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee and all the work they've done, and for Seymour to get this thing started. It's a lot of work, and I appreciate that. Really, your work. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Put the ring on you, Dad. Yep. All right.
Arlen Paranto. To start an organization from scratch is an incredible task. Sid Williams had the vision of what this new sport needed, tried to make it legitimate, tirelessly worked at developing tournaments all over the Seattle, Tacoma area. As I stated on the court, I'm just blown away by all the funds that came in were donated into food banks. This is a man that I've only just met today, but obviously has a heart of gold. Sid, would you please still come up? And we have, hold on. sorry, I'm out of order. Sid has selected for his presenter, Beverly, excuse me, to come up and say a few words for him. One thing I learned today in talking to Sid that I want to make mention, you need sometimes somebody that's got a lot of guts and what we call chutzpah, right? Sid, when he was promoting pickleball, sent paddle ball to Nancy and President Reagan and said, "This is a game you guys need to pick up." Sid Williams.
First of all, I want to thank all of you guys for coming tonight, because as you can see, this has been a very special evening, and I think you have learned a lot about pickleball that you didn't know. And so we continue on with the honor of the honorees. To be able to introduce Sid Williams is very special because Jennifer and I flew to Tacoma last September to kind of crash Sid Williams' 80th birthday party, which was being held at Fort Defiance, which is that little peninsula out of Tacoma. Now, I had not met, nor had Jennifer met Sid beforehand, but we called him because we wanted to interview him for our book that we have been writing on the history of pickleball. So we said, "Sid, could we meet with you and do a little interview Saturday morning before the party?" And he said, "Oh no," he said, "I'm too busy." I go, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, but it's your birthday." He goes, "Yeah, but I'm too busy, I gotta cook." I said, "But it's your birthday." He goes, "I know, I gotta cook for 200 people for my birthday party." I hadn't met him yet, so I said, "Well, how about Friday night?" So we met at a local restaurant. Never having met him, we said, "Okay, we'll meet you at so-and-so restaurant." So Jennifer and I are waiting. Here comes this gentleman with like 5 Costco bags, like 25 pounds each, and comes in with all of these photo albums, and we go, "I think that must be Sid." And he sat down, and we spent the entire evening just chatting about the history of pickleball and all of what he has saved through his photography and the albums. And then Jennifer and I took all of that and went to home Office Depot or something for the next 5 hours or whatever, and kept those machines going. So that was our way. And then we went to the birthday party, and it was truly an honor to meet Sid and his wife. There were probably over 200-300 people, wasn't there, Sid? And they're all there to honor Sid for everything that he has done for our sport and also for racquetball, because we did meet a few that had racquetball and we hadn't converted them over to pickleball. But they were honoring Sid for his friendship and all that he has done with his energy and passion. Now, he was introduced to pickleball in the 70s, but he really didn't start playing until about 1982. And this is interesting for all of you who, because this seems like a new sport. What other sport has been really originated in your lifetime? I'm not sure that there is any other sport that really got started, and you guys are all part of it, and it's just kind of an exciting thing. But to meet what Arlen and everyone before Sid and everything that all of these guys have done, I had no idea either until Jennifer and I started our adventure 3 years ago. So I had to write a couple things down so I wouldn't forget. But when he was introduced into the pickleball, he's really the one that took pickleball from the backyard. Because really when everything was started, it was like 4th of July, Labor Day weekend kind of thing, and it was at Bainbridge Island. But when Sid came in with his organizational skills, he really started the tournaments and the leagues, and everything was done by hand. Can you imagine that? I mean, the rankings, the tournaments, the points, everything was done manually. So we've come a heck of a long way, as far as technology, but that in itself was really quite something. And of course he did this for racquetball too, because he would host racquetball and pickleball tournaments consecutively. Most people would come Friday after work, and correct me if I'm wrong, And those tournaments were like bloody marathons and might not finish until 2 o'clock Monday morning. But when you entered the tournament, you knew that that's how it was set up. And this is all indoor play. So there again, we've come a long ways from what we see here today at Nationals. He created the first USAPA, which was United States Amateur Pickleball Association. And that was about 1984. When we went through everything that Sid shared with us, I was amazed. Being an executive secretary, I did a lot of letter writing, but this guy put me to shame because he wrote every senator, governor, legislator, mayor, whoever, asking for donations and assistance for the tournaments. When they created USAPA, just like Griffith said, President Reagan was honored to be #1 membership of the USAPA. Nobody got #2 because it wasn't important. It wasn't important to have the numbers at that point, but for President Reagan. But I think you said President Reagan wasn't very athletic.
The special people that work for Mr. Reagan as his bodyguards, we sent the balls, the paddles, the nets, didn't have any wood poles, so the special services people said that Reagan, Mr. Reagan and Nancy were not very athletic. But they said they certainly enjoyed the pickleball stuff.
Then we go on as he started the tournaments. Nally's Pickles was one of the major sponsors, and so was Budweiser. They had beer at the tournaments, but you couldn't have the beer unless you were 21, and you couldn't start drinking until after noon or something. I mean, there were rules to be very responsible, but we got pictures of all the sponsors. I just thought that was a little different than what we see today. Also, when he created the ranking systems, the rating systems, and when Barney McCallum created the first rules, which was only 1 page, that didn't work so well for tournaments. So Sid then created really what you might refer to as the first real rule book as far as tournament play is concerned. And you know, we've come a long ways even from that with all of the interpretations. They hosted a lot of leagues, seminars, and exhibitions. And what I just loved is that if you played in one of Sid's tournaments and you lost, you know what you had to do? You had to ref the next match. Wasn't that great, Linda? Now, if it was mixed doubles or women's doubles, you would flip a coin or whatever, but one of you had to, you know, ref the next match. I thought that was a wonderful idea. And it seemed to work because Fran Meyer, where's Fran, by the way? Okay, Fran says she became a really good ref because she lost a few times. I just had to add that, Fran. Anyway, and also the other thing they did in the tournaments that Sid created is that there was no double elimination. The top 2 players would play for gold, and then you would have someone for bronze, but there was no double elimination when they first did this. I had to write notes so I wouldn't forget all of these. Also, one of the things I think that Sid's very proud with is that he presented a plaque to Joel Pritchard, and I know Frank has already left, but that was pretty cool because he had already planned a trip with his wife to Hawaii, and they're leaving like 6 in the morning, so he had to leave to catch the flight so he could sleep at SeaTac to show up on this flight tomorrow morning. But one of the tournaments, Joel Pritchard was always very supportive of the tournaments, and when he could, he would come and he would present the awards to all the different ones, and Sid could maybe enhance that. But he did give Joel a plaque that said Father of the Pickleball. So I guess we have 2 fathers of pickleball because we've already mentioned that before. But we don't have a picture of that because we can't find the plaque. But anyway, that's true. Okay, in closing, one of the things that I thought was really special with Sid is that he said one day, we're going to look back at the humble beginnings with a feeling of pride at having been in on the birth of this great organized sport. And
some great tournaments. Oh, we used to hold some great tournaments. We had sponsors like Nabisco, Nally's, Budweiser, Mega Foods, Baskin Robbins, and for my birthday, I made 600 pounds of spaghetti. Okay. Let me say this first. I went to a friend of mine who owned an Italian restaurant, and I asked him how much he would charge me to make the spaghetti for me. $1,300. I did it at home, and I think it might have cost, what, $200? Something like that. Anyway, we had so much spaghetti and stuff left over, we had to pass it out to people to take home, because my refrigerator sure wasn't big enough to put it in there. My wife helps me more than anybody else. She's the person that does everything that I can't do. And there's more of it that she does than I do. Barney and my good friend, Mr. Pritchard, were friends of mine. He was the lieutenant governor for the state of Washington. And I knew that he had a lot to do with pickleball. So I called him one day in Washington State, and said, Barney, would you like to help me do something? He said, what are you talking about? I said, they're having the Wenatchee Games in Wenatchee, and you can take as many players as you want to go. So we took 87 pickleball players and 90 racquetball players. So we ran both facilities at that site. And the director came down to us and he said, I can't believe that you're doing this. He says, how did you get it organized? I said, I asked people if they would do it. And I said, Barney said, when I asked him, would he come and pass out awards? And he said, yes, I sure would. He was as happy as he could be. And I've never met a man that was more gentle and genuine than him. And that's... I'd like you to know that here's what happened. This young lady and her daughter gave me a call and said, hey, do you know anything about pickleball? I said, yeah, a little bit. So she said, can you let us have some material? I said, well, I'm busy. I'm making spaghetti. So they said, well, can you come over and bring some stuff and leave it with us? And I said, sure. I bought a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. When you're talking about photo albums, maybe 10 or 12, like this thick, with everything in it from ratings, rankings, all of that stuff. And I trusted them. And they called me back and they said, thank you very much for this. I said, well, would you guys like to come to my birthday party? I got lots of spaghetti. So they did show up. And we had 198 people show up for that party. And I couldn't believe it. I lost 12 pounds that day just walking back and forth and getting stuff to serve the people. But I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I had to go home later and get in the jacuzzi. But let me say this about this lady here. She is very passionate about what she does in relationship to whatever's going to make the light shine. And she certainly did it with me. And I couldn't ask for a better person. Trustworthy, caring, and her daughter too.
Just one quick note. Sid sent me a big packet of photos, and if you haven't had time to come see this little trifold, this will show you what pickleball was in about the 80s, early 90s. wonderful outfits. See if you can find, some of you in the audience are over here, but I'm gonna let you find them yourselves. You might recognize a couple of the players. Anyway, be sure you take a peek.
Okay, we'd like to present Sid now with Pickleball Hall of Fame jacket. And the Pickleball Hall of Fame ring. Congratulations. You know, Mark Friedenberg is deserving in both categories. Just got a list of just his national championships, and it's just absolutely incredible. 8-time gold champion, 4 silvers, 6 bronzes. At the Huntsman, 3 national titles in gold, 4 silvers, 2 bronzes. USAPA president, author of the first book in pickleball that helped spread the game throughout the United States, and is still, I think, a great book. And then, of course, continued the legacy that Arlen started by being an owner of Pro Life, which is now run by his son, Neil. Neil has selected Fran to give you some additional information on Mark. They've known each other for quite some time. So, Fran, would you please come up?
I just want to tell you a story about a long time ago in a log cabin in Hollywood, California. A young couple had a baby boy. When this baby came out, the parents looked at it and they were stunned at how wrinkly this baby was. And they said, "We've never seen anything so ancient looking." So they named him Yoda. Yoda loved all kinds of sports as he was growing up. He played basketball, baseball, football, racquetball, softball, tennis, table tennis. He also was a good student. Eventually, he entered college and earned a BA in mathematics from Cal State Northridge and an MS in computer science from the University of Southern California. Another thing many of you may not know is then Mark joined the Navy. After 20 years of service, he retired as a lieutenant commander. While in the Navy, he was stationed at the U.S. Naval Academy for almost 8 years, coordinating their 2 computer centers for the Director of Computer Services. He also was a computer science instructor. Most of you know Yoda as a highly accomplished athlete on the pickleball court. For over 25 years, he has dominated play in both the open category and in his own age group. He is an author of books on pickleball. He's also the former owner of Pro Life Sports. But his single most important accomplishment so far is his vision for the future of pickleball and taking the initiative to form the new USAPA. Now, many of you don't know the history, but back in 2004, during the Arizona Senior Olympics, and many of you were there, a meeting was called. All pickleball players come. We want to see how many people are interested in forming an organization so that there would be an organization to oversee running pickleball. So people came, and our memories kind of failed us. None of us could remember exactly how many people were there. But we asked, how how many of you would be willing to pay $25 membership dues to be in this kind of an organization? Because we wanted to see if there was commitment and interest. And about 45 people signed this list. I know there were more than 45. There might have been fewer. So, hey, we have 45 people who are interested in forming an organization. Great! Everybody clapped, everybody went out the door, and they went home. For a whole year, nothing happened. Then, finally, Mark decided he had a memory of well, let me back up a little bit. Because you know that Sid Williams formed the first organization, and then Mark Candelario continued on with it. And because of health problems and lack of attention, it languished and all but disappeared. So meanwhile, back in Washington, after this whole year had gone by, Yoda was recalling an expression that was posted on the walls of the U.S. Naval Academy. If not you, then when? If not now, or if not you, then who? If not now, then when? And that expression convinced him to start the new USAPA Pickleball Association. It called together the first board members, some of us kind of reluctantly. And we sat around the table and had many meetings and discussions and agreements and disagreements. And after a while, we had the beginnings of a new USAPA. And when Joe Hancock, where is Joe? When Joe Hancock signed up as the very first USAPA member, the organization was on its way. So thank you, Joe Hancock, and all the rest of the other people out there who signed on and have faith in Yoda's vision. The USAPA and its internet presence that gave people all around the world wide access to information about where to play, how to create a pickleball court, the official rules, upcoming tournaments, training materials, ratings, rankings, and stimulated huge growth throughout North America and beyond. The first USAPA Nationals was in 2009, only 4 years after the formation of the new USAPA. There were almost 400 participants. Today, right now, USAPA is hosting its 9th USAPA National Championships here in Casa Grande with over 1,570 participants. And other major tournaments are popping up, like Tournament of Champions, which has taken place for the past 5 years. The US Open Pickleball Tournament in Naples, 2 years. And Madrid hosted the first international pickleball tournament 2 years ago. Some of you were there, right over there. And this year, Spain included the inaugural IFP Bainbridge Cup, which the USA and North America came home with the trophy. And now here we are, only 12 and a half years later, since Mark had his vision. The USAPA has over 20,000 members and over 1,600 pickleball ambassadors across the USA and Canada. The growth of this sport has exploded, and claims that it is the fastest growing sport is not just hyperbole. This has been the amazing result of Yoda's vision. But more than all the paid memberships, tournaments, places to play, and hundreds of businesses that were spawned by pickleball's growth are the many players around the world. Most are not tournament players. They are people who have discovered the fun of this addictive sport. They now enjoy the health benefits, the social interaction, and the enjoyment of making new friends wherever they go to play this wonderful sport. Such widespread growth would not have happened as quickly as it did without Yoda's ancient wisdom and initiative. It's an honor to introduce 2017 Pickleball Hall of Fame inductee Mark Yoda Friedenberg.
have my notes here. You went through. What am I going to do now? Oh, by the way, Jim and Yvonne, that was Pat and Rock King. Okay. Thank you very much, Fran. I appreciate it. I've known Fran and Barney for about 20 years. And by the way, it was Fran and Barney who started the Nationals. They started. I'm going to make this short. I have a few thank yous and something about friendship. I want to thank you all for coming to this historical event. I appreciate it. We've had five Hall of Fame members already, and wow, the speeches are unbelievable. Thank you, Seymour, and David, and the rest of the Pickleball Hall of Fame members, the nomination committee, the selection committee, and any other members. I really appreciate that. To my dad, he encouraged me. He said there's nothing I cannot do. In other words, if I worked harder and smarter and did something with a passion, I would be very successful. So I appreciate my dad's comments too. To Barb and Al Hager, thanks for hosting me. I might be outside the casita tonight. Thank you. I appreciate it. And a very special thank you to Heather Irwin, who came out here just for the special occasion. You mean a lot to me. You're a very special person. Thank you. This award is very special to me. To be associated with the founding fathers of pickleball is just amazing. I can't say anything about it. I mean, I'm speechless. This award, to me, is the highest honor that any pickleball player can have, really. It's amazing. A couple things. You know, anyone who plays pickleball knows that this is the fastest growing sport. Fran already talked about that. Well, there are reasons for that. You get great exercise. Excuse me. It's easy to play. The USAPA Ambassador Program. The IPTPA conducting clinics and lessons. And everyone who plays is a pickleball ambassador and spreads the growth, spreads the word about pickleball. Those are reasons why this sport has grown exponentially. Well, I think there's another reason as well. Friendship. I think friendship is very important. I have many friends in this sport, and wow, I consider, with all these pickleball friends, I'm the luckiest person in the world. Is there any other sport that, let's go back. I'm a terrible speaker. Okay. Well, I would bet that most people in this room have more pickleball friends than any other friends in their life. And that's extremely important. For that reason, I am very lucky too. One of the things I do is I just can't wait to get on the pickleball courts. Why? Because I like to play and I like to schmooze. That's what it's all about for me. again, with all you friends, I'm the luckiest person in the world. I love you all, and I love pickleball. Thank you.
Just before we move on to our final inductee, I wanted to make mention, several of our presenters mentioned the growth of pickleball and through tournaments and through rankings, and that reminded me that we have a tier 3 sponsor, and that's Pickleball Tournaments and Melissa, and what they've done and what her predecessor Bob did to create the software and everything else for pickleball tournaments, I think is truly incredible, and certainly it was responsible, along with everything else that's been said, to the growth of pickleball. The other third tier sponsor is Paddletech. And I just want to make mention, for those of you that haven't seen it, that cup that was won in Spain is, you know, we talk about pickleball and the love and everything that goes with it, but let's go USA too, right? Because I dream one day of pickleball being in the Olympics. And those that are in the room here today, and some of the young players that we saw on the court, they're going to be representing USA. So we'll be bringing home stuff like that quite frequently. Our final inductee. Beyond the national titles that Billy's won, the one thing that I learned just today was absolutely incredible to me is that Billy has won multiple national titles, singles and doubles, but now listen to this. He played lefty, and then he played righty for the entire tournament. So he didn't just switch hands like our next presenter, Wes, is known to do, but he played the entire tournament righty in one nationals, and then played the entire tournament lefty in one national. That, to me, is unbelievable. To talk more about Billy is our own Wes Gable.
All right. What a great evening so far.
Yeah.
We've had. Let's give everyone a round of applause. You know, for those of you that know me well, I do like to talk. And I know that the night is late here, but we have some great things to talk about here. What I want you to do is forget about pickleball here for a second. Right? When you think about Hall of Fame, whatever it is, a sport, for music, whatever it is, okay, every Hall of Famer has the following characteristics. Within a sport, an athlete who's a Hall of Famer has exceptional skill. They're very competitive. They show dignity on the court and off the court. They're tremendous sports in victory and defeat. I know in defeat it's difficult to show sportsmanship sometimes. They've had a long career, and they've had success. Okay. All of these characteristics fit Billy Jacobson. Okay. All of these things he has had throughout his illustrious pickleball career. Now, when I started playing pickleball in 2012, okay, as YouTube was coming around, I know we've all watched a lot of YouTube pickleball videos. Okay, I'd been told about this guy, Billy Jacobson. Billy Jacobson, that I should watch him on YouTube. So I go on there. I see this big, strong guy with long hair, and I'm going to think he's going to hit the snot out of the ball every single time because he's this big, strong guy. But he has incredible touch. Okay, how many of you, and this is completely aside here, how many of you know Chris Miller? Pickleball player Chris Miller. Okay, as we know, Chris Miller's got some very interesting opinions about pickleball. But he was the guy that said, you got to watch Billy. Okay, Billy is the guy that you need to model your game after when you start playing pickleball. Okay, in my opinion, and I've seen a lot of great pickleball players. Okay, I've lost to a lot of great pickleball players. I think Billy Jacobson's the greatest pickleball player of all time. Okay, hands down. Hands down. And I'm going to tell you why. He has the most open tournament championships of any player in pickleball history. He is a USAPA, a Canadian, and an indoor national champion. He won the very first Tournament of Champions doubles title. For 7 years in a row, he was undefeated in open pickleball tournaments. 7 years in a row. Okay. I believe he's the only pickleball player that has won open tournaments with 4 different types of pickleballs. That's the Cosm ball, the Jugs ball, the Dura ball, and the Onyx ball. 27 years in a row, he won at least one open tournament championship. 27 years in a row. And he won 17 consecutive open tournaments in the state of Washington. Okay, let's give him a round of applause for that. Now, what some of you may not know is that Billy made his pickleball debut at the age of 19. He was a very, very successful, accomplished tennis player in his youth. He played #1 for the University of Washington. And to go on Riff's point, what he had mentioned earlier, the reason Billy started playing left-handed, he didn't want to mess up his tennis game. Right? He didn't want to mess up his tennis game. So he started playing left-handed. Okay? He played left-handed from his debut at age 19 until he was 31. He played all left-handed for 12 years in a row. When I met the guy, I got to see his right hand. Okay, I hadn't seen that left-handed side. Okay, but as Riff had said earlier, he's the only person to dominate playing all left-handed tournaments and all right-handed tournaments. And I don't think we're ever going to see that again. Okay? But what's really important to me and to a lot of players that started when I started playing is that Billy really was the blueprint for a pro pickleball player. Right? His style, his strategy, his demeanor on the court, he was the guy we all aspired to be. Okay. Now, think about his dominance. Right? Great success on the pickleball court. He won all those titles. Now imagine this. Doing all of that with type 1 diabetes. Okay. Now, when he had some health issues when he played, when his blood sugar would get low, the following things will happen to Billy when he plays. He's going to lose power on his shots. Okay. He's going to lose some foot speed. He has vision difficulties, chronic dehydration, and cramping. But he never complained, and he won. He never complained, and he won. Okay? He was tremendously successful. Okay? I can't imagine doing that. Okay? Having to go through that, not complaining about it, and being successful. Yeah, I think that deserves a great round of applause. Now, Billy had a really successful playing career, but his impact goes beyond his success as a player. Okay? In having some discussion with his wife, Darcy, we were talking about some of the other things he did to make a real great impact on this sport. Okay? Billy had the suggestion of making pickleball tournaments double elimination. Right? When we think about this, My assumption is maybe there were consolation brackets or single elimination at the time. Okay, but he helped introduce that. He suggested in the losers bracket that matches should be played 1 game to 15 or 1 game to 21. Okay, before that rule was introduced, all of the backdraw matches were 2 out of 3 games. So you can imagine how long those tournaments would take. Okay, and he had a major influence on the time limits that people have for timeouts or in between games. So his influence goes far beyond his playing ability. Okay? But I think for all of us that know Billy, he's really a Hall of Fame person. Okay? He's got this gentle side to him. I've had some great interactions with him over the years talking about his family. Right? He glows when he talks about his kids and what they're doing. And I can tell that he's a dedicated father, and he's a great husband. He's been a great mentor to me. I know when I started playing pickleball, Billy and I would email back and forth about, I don't know if we ever did play a tournament together. I don't think we did. We talked about it. One day we will. One day, hopefully we will. But he was such an inspiration for all of us that were starting in the game and coming from tennis. And I can't thank him enough for what he's done for the sport, for what he's done for me. And so it is, despite all the success we might have as pickleball players, this is one of the highlights of my pickleball life, is to introduce one of my heroes. So come on up, Billy.
Big guy! Wide guy! We're all ready for the jacket? We're ready for the jacket.
Now, David will have some closing comments. Want to thank all of you for being here. It's a great evening. Appreciate all your support. The first of many.
Got a couple, 3 things. It's late, but I know we're going to go home. Several of you playing in the morning. First of all, I want to recognize all those that serve on the Hall of Fame committee. Would you please stand up and be recognized? Folks, with a little time to put together a great evening. Thank you, Riff. It was a great job that you've done. I want to leave you with this thought. There was a great man called Walt Disney. Walt Disney once said, if you can dream it, you can do it. Tonight, you have met those dreamers. Have a great night.